this is Jay, also known as MultimediaJay. Welcome to Chillin at Jay's Geekhouse, my answer to the ongoing problem on this channel of not-so-quick flicks. Quick background on what this is going to be. This is going to be simpler discussions on tech or multimedia-related topics. Not vlogs per se. Vlogs are supposed to be updates and things like that, but I found I've had a really hard time staying away from this kind of format over the years. I tried with the Kickoff series, but the whole shorter or simpler videos thing, that was a cop-out and an excuse, and it was stupid. So because I'm changing things up on this channel, I figured let's just do the obvious here and, just go with this and see where it goes from here on out. So, new series, new playlist, somewhat new opener, although I'm using a music track from the YouTube audio library that I really like. So it's a good way to give that song some publicity as well, but that's what this is going to be. The Kickoff flicks are actually going to be quick from here on out. And the more in-depth discussions where I kind of pull a Boogie 2988, so to speak, and just talk about things related to technology and multimedia and whatnot, that's what this series is going to be about. Very simple discussion, and it's really bright in here, so hopefully that justifies the sunglasses. Or you can just put lower wattage bulbs, but these things are, these are LEDs and stuff. Man, no. This place has better lighting than my last place, so let's have some fun with that. Alright, let's talk about what we're going to talk about. Nvidia versus AMD, Polaris versus Pascal, and one of the goofiest comments that I've received, or any kind of feedback that I've received in the last couple of months. Now there was, I can't remember which video it was, but there was an allegation, no, there was this comment a while back that said, wow, I didn't know Jay, I don't remember Jay saying anything about liking Nvidia, invoking the whole Nvidia versus AMD, Team Green versus Team Red, that sort of thing. No, I didn't say I liked Nvidia because I don't play that game. I just buy what's better. And better is a highly subjective term that means different things at different times. Now with Polaris versus Pascal coming up, as well as the launch of the AMD Zen later this year, there is a ton of speculation about where the AMD versus Nvidia showdown is going to go. Is Nvidia going to finally end up on the defensive, and is AMD going to start scoring some points against Nvidia and asserting some more market dominance, despite Nvidia just kicking its ass in the Steam hardware survey and things like that? Most popular video card as of the recording of this discussion, the Nvidia GTX 970. So that officially puts me behind the times. Well, I'm not playing any games that are all that graphically intense right now. Star Wars: The Old Republic. Ooh. Guild Wars 2, somewhat, actually no, World of Warcraft in Ultra mode scales way the heck up. Oh wait, my subscription is canceled. Duh. I don't have any of the Crisis games. I don't have any of the eye candy games. The closest thing I have to eye candy is Unigine Valley. So, yeah, I do have a GTX 760 in Tuxedo, and it's been my graphics card of choice for the last couple of years, but things were different back then. So it's not like I'm like, yeah, Nvidia is amazing. My choice, if I had bought one during the Maxwell era, when it was Maxwell versus the whatever islands with AMD, would have hands down been a GTX 970. But it occurred to me that it's May now. These new cards on both sides are supposed to come out in June of this year. So, assuming I read that right, we could be looking at new video cards hitting the market in a month. I think I can put up with the 760 for one more month. Or is it July and it's going to be 2 months? I'm flying by the seat of my pants on this one too, just like so many other folks. At the edge of my seat. But it's just... let me talk about this whole thing with graphic card fanboy nonsense, because there's a ton of speculation, and AdoredTV, which is a channel I highly recommend, by the way, made a very good case for AMD actually becoming the dominant graphics card company despite impossible odds. They're kind of like that ferocious cat backed into the corner. So they get backed into by AMD, or by Nvidia, like that, and start clawing back, trying to get back into the game. Right now they are a blatant underdog, just like they are with CPUs. I mean, the Steam hardware survey and other discussions as well. And of course the frequency of driver updates. But the big thing that tells the difference between these two companies, AMD and Nvidia, when it comes to graphics cards, Nvidia is investing in other product lines, whereas AMD is just trying to get back into the ring, darn it. And so yeah, AMD is an underdog. I think we know that. They're an underdog with graphics, they're an underdog with processors. But that doesn't automatically mean that I buy Nvidia every single time. I've been all over the place when it comes to graphics cards. My very first card was a TNT2 was an Nvidia TNT2 that came with the original HP that was supposed to get me through college that didn't, leading to me building the Silver Bullet and building my own computers. The rest is history. Lovely when the off-the-shelf system rips me, well no, Best Buy kind of ripped me off on that one. So, we spent a couple $100 extra on a service plan in case something broke when I was in college. I tried to invoke it, got the runaround, and it was more worth it for me to get into computer hardware, and that's been a big plus since then. That Lenovo system that I put together for my dad a couple of weeks ago, well, it might be months ago at this point, that Lenovo system that I put together for my dad a while back, that's my first off-the-shelf desktop that I've ever purchased in a long time. So I was just hooking him up. Yeah, I looked for a good deal, bought it, set it up for him, and he reimbursed me. Yay, cool, getting paid. Woohoo! I should do more of that. Yeah, people ask me why I don't do more computer help type stuff in the general community anyways. It's just, might be something to explore. But anyways, that's another discussion entirely. But yeah, I started out with a TNT2. Back in the days when Nvidia was naming everything after explosives. You had TNT, TNT2, the drivers were called detonator drivers. It's just, Nvidia had this thing with explosives, okay? And ATI and Nvidia, they had the back and forth thing and things like that, and then eventually AMD acquired them. It's hard to believe, 06 I believe was when AMD acquired ATI. 10 years, and I'm still not very comfortable with saying AMD Radeon instead of ATI Radeon. So, but that's one of the criticisms of AMD's graphics division, is that Nvidia has so much more brand power and brand loyalty. You mentioned Nvidia, boom, people know what you're talking about. You know, people aren't as quick to adapt AMD Radeon. I think AMD should have made ATI a subsidiary rather than destroying the brand. I think that's one of the myriad of mistakes they've made over the last several years, is destroying the ATI brand. I mean, ATI, Team Red, was the company that brought us the Rage Pro. That's one awesome name for a graphics card from the turn of the millennium. The Rage! And of course now we have the Radeon Fury and stuff like that. So they're trying to get back into some of that macho stuff. But I really think getting rid of the ATI, it was ATI and Nvidia, red and green. AMD was actually green because the logo was green back then. So getting rid of ATI, I think, was a stupid move. Even all these years later. If AMD resurrected the ATI brand, I would actually applaud them for that. I don't know if it would work as well nowadays as it would have done during the end of the ATI days, but I think there might still be some brand recognition out there. But they want to have everything AMD or whatever, so that's their business, and that's their decision. But I've been all over the map. I was an Nvidia person for the first couple of years, but then there was the Fermi. There was the Nvidia Fermi. I started giving a darn about power efficiency and heat generation in the late 2000s, before it really became as big as it is now, because everybody's talking about performance per watt, because the desktop has its figurative back against the wall by even I got the turd Shiba. It's a laptop from last year. Last freaking year. The APU in that thing is about to be made obsolete by the Zen APU next year. But it still draws 10 watts when it's idle. It's uploading a YouTube video for me right now. That thing's probably only drawing 10 watts. Desktops can't even get close to that. It's insane. But yeah, so when Nvidia was doing... Well, first Nvidia was embarrassed royally. There was a Radeon card, I forgot what it was called. There was a Radeon card in the early 2000s that sent Nvidia back to the drawing board. The best Nvidia could come up with, I think it was the GeForce FX or something like that. It was this screwball card with this weird cooler on it that made way too much noise and, just didn't do what the hottest Radeon card in those days was doing. So There were times when Team Red came out on top, there were times when Team Green came out on top, and overall, there was more competition across the board. There was more like, boom, even competition, nice little match between the two. Same thing with Intel versus AMD at the time. The Athlon XP, the Athlon 64, before Intel got back into the ring with the Core 2 Duo Conroe, and basically retook the crown that they've had ever since. But that's the thing. The Zen might help to level the playing field finally when it comes out later this year. But that's the thing. I mean, when Nvidia screwed up, I went over to ATI, then AMD. I think it converted. Actually, yeah, it was AMD by the time I converted over. But there was a time when Radeon cards were the more power efficient of the bunch. If you didn't want a computer that needed a really big power supply, you would get a Radeon instead of a GeForce. But then AMD had some trouble with the drivers weren't coming out quickly enough, and Nvidia was incorporating more of a packaged suite of stuff through programs like the GeForce Experience, Nvidia Shadowplay, things like that. Here I was wanting to do gaming videos, and I was using fraps, and the CPU overhead was bothering me, because I want to know, my system does like 1080-30 to 1080-60. I don't want any tax on the CPU, because I'm using fraps to record gaming footage for something, excuse me. Darn it, I haven't even had supper yet. So that's the thing. I mean, this whole thing with, when AMD tripped up, or excuse me, when Nvidia tripped up, I went Radeon. And then when AMD started getting a little compared to Nvidia, I went over and got a Kepler card. Now, Polaris versus Pascal is going to come down to, for me in particular, the software. Not just the performance, because they're probably going to be, fighting, tooth and claw this go-around. But there's also the things like the software package, how quickly the drivers come out, what's available in terms of drivers, whether or not we have more situations like what happened with Nvidia sabotaging things, and where newer drivers would kill your frame rates in certain games. I've been reading stuff here and there, but weird stuff Nvidia's doing because of the whole GameWorks thing. But the thing with the whole Pascal versus Polaris thing, I'm mostly looking for performance per watt. The most power-hungry the most power-hungry component that I have in my main system right now is the graphics card. Yeah, sure, I'm running a Phenom 2 from 2010 that caps at 125 watts TDP, but at the very same time, the graphics card goes higher. So, and here's the thing. Performance is going to start mattering less and less to me, because we're talking about graphics cards being made for 4K and 1440p, and I am running this 1080p TV into the ground, and I'm very tempted to not upgrade past 1080p for a very long time. So this one, no picture degradation after over 5 years, working very, very well, whether over HDMI or even the old analog circuits. Works very, very well as a monitor. And this thing has had more monitor use than television use over its lifespan. But it's perfectly fine. The picture's awesome, and I've got it to look like a ginormous monitor, and the refresh rate is actually, the response time is actually quick, so you don't have too much getting owned in first-person shooter games because of issues with how quickly it's updating the picture on the screen. So this display has worked out extremely well for me since the end of 2008. So I'm going to run this sucker clear into the ground before even thinking about replacing it. Now, because of this, I'm not messing with ultra-wide, I'm not messing with multiple monitors, I'm not even touching VR, not touching 4K anytime soon, not even messing at 1440p. Eventually, I'm not going to need a high-end graphics card to play games at 60 FPS at 1080. It's going to be something that everything out there can do in its sleep. So, what do I focus on now? What I focus on is performance per watt. Polaris is supposed to get 2.5 times better than what's out there for AMD right now. But how are they going to do versus Pascal? That's really going to be what determines which card I get. And none of this, by the way, is going to have any performance per watt and performance per dollar. That's what I'll be looking at. Assuming I even want to upgrade in the first place, because I'm not having frame rate problems in any of the darn games. At all. Period. Performance per watt and performance per dollar. That's what I want to see. I got a feeling that AMD might have more of the performance per dollar, and Nvidia is going to have more of the performance per watt. But none of this, and absolutely none of this, by the way, has anything to do with any of the rampant speculation that's going around all over the place about whether Nvidia has any future versus AMD. It has nothing to do with any of that. Now there's people that are tearing this apart and splitting hairs on absolutely everything because fanboys want to argue, but ultimately, if you want to buy something now, I mean, graphics cards are the sort of things you upgrade every couple of years. So, in some cases, it makes more sense to upgrade a graphics card than it does to get a new system. I've been through that. I've been going crazy with how much I've gotten out of this 5-year-old system just by upgrading the graphics card and eventually the RAM quantity, but the graphics card has been responsible for most of the performance improvements with the gaming. I don't know if I'm anywhere near CPU limited yet. Maybe I can start playing Grand Theft Auto 5 and see how I'm doing in that respect, because I understand GTA 5 uses a lot of CPU resources versus GPU resources. So it's, I think World of Warcraft does too, but my account's canceled. So it's gotta keep remembering that. It's just something to think about. There's a ton of speculation right now for Nvidia versus AMD. There's a ton of speculation for whether Nvidia is going to stay involved with PC graphics at anything other than the high end. But does it matter? If you want to buy something now, and something does what you want it to now, how about you just buy something now, and then just check back in a couple of years? How hard is that? I mean, are we going to have another 3DFX on our hands where one of these two companies exits the market completely? I'm not convinced of that. Competition? Hey, it's a good thing to have. But at the very same time, though, the whole thing with Nvidia and AMD, it's overblown. We shouldn't be starting World War III over graphics cards, especially when PC gaming is an enthusiast market to begin with, which means it's not as big as something like, say, the mobile market or consoles or anything like that. The mainstream market isn't going to be as interested in what we're getting all worked up about as we are. So that might also influence what Nvidia and AMD do with their graphics divisions in terms of, does Nvidia want to spin everything off if they want to focus more on other stuff and things like that. Although I really think if Nvidia spins off their desktop graphics, they're going to be in big trouble because Nvidia has a lot of brand recognition. The GeForce line's been going for how long? You say Nvidia GeForce, people know what you're talking about just like that. Nvidia graphics cards, things like that. The other stuff like the Tegra, now they're still trying to have it catch on and whatnot, but GeForce, Nvidia GeForce is synonymous with you know what someone's talking about when they say Nvidia GeForce, unless you don't care about PC gaming. It's that simple. AMD Radeon, maybe not so much. I bet ATI Radeon would still do better than AMD Radeon these days, but just old GeForce, boom, like that, boom, we know what you're talking about. So if they spun off their desktop graphics division, I don't know if Nvidia would really, if that's really a good idea for Nvidia to do so. So there's talk of Nvidia exiting the market. There's talk of Nvidia going into other stuff because desktop graphics aren't worth competing in because AMD has the console chips. They also are going to come out with a Zen later this year, and Polaris might hold its own against Pascal and things like that. And Nvidia may be forced to kind of back off a bit. But there are some people that still buy Nvidia stuff, so what are you going to do? Abandon those customers? I think not. But that's the thing. When you buy something like this, you go off of what's better at the time. And better is a very vague and subjective term. So you define what you mean by better. In my case, I'm looking specifically for performance per watt and performance per dollar. I don't need the most powerful stuff out there, and I'm not even going to consider a multi-GPU setup. Nothing that I am playing right now would really benefit much from that. So I'm probably going to, even with Monolith, just have a single graphics card, and basically get something that's a good mix of performance per watt and performance per dollar. Best overall. Not necessarily the one that's going to get me the highest score on XYZ synthetic benchmark, but that's another discussion entirely. So that's where I stand on the whole AMD versus Nvidia, Polaris versus Pascal. Regardless of when this hits us, assuming these product lines don't get delayed, I am not going to make my decision on whether I go red or green based on people arguing on the internet. It's going to be based on more numbers-oriented stuff. What's better in terms of performance per watt? What's better in terms of performance per dollar? Let me know what you think of the new format, folks, as we experiment with this simpler discussions on things. And I will get to work on what I want to do next as this channel moves forward. Thanks for watching, everybody. Till next time, this is MultimediaJay, signing off. Thanks for stopping by.